And this was one of my first attempts to catch fairies. Rather cruel, but I thought I'd have a go, you know. But they were so amused that they stole it and they kept it and they gave it back to me. Good effort, they said.
So initially you were almost hostile towards the fairies, trying
I was only
to
about
trap
6
them.
or 7 years old.
But they've forgiven you for this?
Oh, they do. They know there's no way I could catch them in anything like this. I couldn't possibly. I mean, the speed of that falling is just like slow motion to them. So, and she put some acorns in my ears, one in each ear, and she put some ointment on my eyes. That's the only way I could get past the vulture at the door, the guardian. And I didn't actually ever see the vulture. I saw the vulture as a microscopic type thing, and I just about caught a glimpse, but I wasn't allowed to see it. I was sort of blinded with this ointment. When you're inside, this was what I brushed the ointment off so that I could see, and took the acorns out, and it was the same in coming out as well, but they gave me this so that I could, that was solid gold, very, very fine.
And so
that was the acorns, but they made a sort of present of them by welding the stuff, sewing them together, etc. So
they're very small,
yes.
acorns.
Yes, they didn't, because they painted them, they didn't get the full effect of the air when they came back out. So they're sort of stunted. But I hang on as a keepsake sort of thing. I hang on to them.
So what did they what procedure did they have to carry out to make you shrink to their size?
Just pass through the door.
And
you pass through the door and that's it. The vulture opens the door. He's the guardian on the door. He pulls back and a claw goes out. I did have a claw. Thanks. But I'll have to bring them out, so I'll have to see it. This is the claw.
How on earth did you get that from the vicious vulture?
The vicious vulture, this is the discarded claw. Some of the claws, and it's just very shrunken in diameter, etc. It's sort of like a emaciated claw. And every so often they scratch, and these drop out, and a new big fresh one goes, and there's quite a lot around, because when they don't only use their beak to rip their food apart, they use their claws as well. They hold it and they lacerate and they tear and they gorge. They're wonderful creatures, absolutely wonderful creatures, but I wasn't allowed to see them. I've been told about them. All I saw was this claw afterwards. When I came out, I stumbled and I picked up a few bits and pieces, and this was one of the bits and pieces. I have a burden on my back of all the gifts that they gave me.
Just as well, given the fate of the curator.
That's the tip of one of their claws. In reality, that's how when it comes back. I got a tip which they'd broken off, and they sharpen their claws on the castle walls, or the city walls, I beg your pardon, and sometimes they crack them off. They get a bit brittle, depends on their diet. You know, they're the same as us. You know, they need to keep their bones and their claws up, etc.
Have you ever tried to film the fairies?
No, my cameras don't seem to survive. You have to leave certain things outside. You know, they don't.
It's very convenient.
They said they wouldn't work.
There's no evidence.
They wouldn't work.
Really, that this isn't all your own ideas and imagination.
No.
So we have to take your word for it.
Absolutely, yes. As a gentleman, they had an Egyptian period, the same as us. They've been around a long time. They knew of our Egyptian period. They've had everything, same as us, Stone Age, and much previous.
So are they copying us, or are we copying them?
Well, that's what I'm trying to find out, really. I mean, you can't get a straight answer out of them. They tend to just laugh and have babies and things, you know. It's awful.
Would the fairies be likely to accept a visitor with you into the fairy?
Do they what?
Would they accept you coming back with a visitor? Would I be able to come into the fairy world?
You've not been?
No.
No. I could inquire, but I would a very slim chance, I would think. It's taken me a long, long lifetime. As I said, I started when I was 6 or 7 years old, and I made fairy traps and.
Obviously, your efforts were
various
somewhat
things.
hampered by the fact that you were trying to kill them to start with.
Yeah, but you can't kill them anyhow. I mean, they just think that's just a child. It's like like when you were a kid, you sort of possibly step on an insect or something like that. Well, I wouldn't step on an insect knowingly now. They're enormously strong. I mean, one man could have, one tiny fairy could have carried me if they wanted, but they wanted this ceremonial thing, and they put me in the palanquin, and they took me a journey which seemed a long way, very precipitous and mountainous and desert, and it was an incredible journey. But I was afraid I was going to be dropped all the time. You know, they were a bit sort of stumbling along and going like mad, sort of thing. But I think they were doing that to make me excited and distracted, etc. And then we arrived at the Fairy Museum.
They didn't have any train routes then?
Well, yes, they had plenty of train links, but they don't want to. They were only playthings. They don't use trains or anything like that for themselves. They're only playthings. They don't use them. Because they can move at the speed of, or faster than the speed of light anyhow. So they don't need anything like that. If they want to be one instant here and one instant there, they can be. They can be at two places at the same time. They're that quick.
Right.
So I'm not even sure that there's lots and lots of fairies, or whether there's just one.